to the ACC. We're going to talk Tyler's team here. We're going to talk Carolina, the Tar Heels at Virginia tonight. Ultimately, Virginia, Tony Bennett gets the win at home. Some tweaks from Hubert Davis. We saw Seth Trimble in the starting lineup for North Carolina tonight. And ultimately, the big story here, Armando Bacot. You hope that he's all right, because that's a totally different team if they have to go without him for any significant stretch of this season. So, Tyler, first of all, have we heard any updates on where we are at with Bacot? And then what'd you see from your Tar Heels tonight?
No update on Bacot, but I will say it is not the same ankle that he's had issues with from the Final Four and last year. So hopefully that's a good thing. But it didn't look like it looked like an awkward ankle sprain. It's usually, going the other way, but it didn't look good on TV, especially with the review. But I will say that I thought this Jalen Washington, this freshman, came in and played very well. And that was big for us because if you know Carolina, they lack depth. And this team needs depth to really, go farther in the season. I thought last year, deep in the tournament run, it kind of played a factor late, especially in the championship game, in my opinion. But Virginia has always been a place where we've kind of struggled recently. We haven't, walked away with many wins, especially against Tony Bennett. It's been a tough place to play. They're well coached, and you can't make many mistakes. It's kind of like a mental chess match. But you mentioned it also, Seth Trimble coming in, and I actually really like Seth Trimble, Caleb Love, and RJ Davis playing together. I think those three, they compete, they can run the floor. Obviously, Caleb didn't have the best game tonight, but I really like that combo. I think this might, even though Bacot went out, I think this might help us because Jalen Washington got a lot of experience tonight. But Virginia played a good game, and it's a tough place to play, and they walked out with the dub.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Tyler just brought up a good point, right? You're playing against Virginia. It is a mental chess match, okay? You're going to get to the under 8 timeout in the first half, and you could look up at the scoreboard, and the score could be 13-12. And how are you dealing with that mentally when you're a team that's used to scoring a lot of points? Or, hey, my offense isn't going really well for me tonight, and I have to get my numbers. And I'm trying to be an all-league player, or I'm trying to go to the NBA, or I'm on draft boards, and all of a sudden I look at the score, and there's 6 minutes to go in the first half, and it's 15-14. That messes with you. Like, the focus level you have to have when you play those games. And then all of a sudden you get to the second half, and it's 33-34 with 8 minutes to go, and then Virginia hits 2 or 3 straight threes to extend that lead. Now all of a sudden they got an 8-point lead. And when you have an 8-point lead and you're playing at Virginia and you're you have an 8-point deficit and you're playing at Virginia, that's a hard thing to come back from, because now they're taking the shot clock down every single possession to 2 seconds at least before they take a shot. And here comes that mental game again. So would it be interesting to see if Bacot, he got hurt in the first minute of the game. Would the result have been different? I agree with Tyler in terms of other guys getting opportunities and growing up and experience, and maybe that helps Carolina moving forward here. But that is a mental chess game playing against Virginia. And when you fall into the trap, they got you.
Yeah, and I agree with that, especially Tony Bennett. And also it's a mental chess match trying to watch them sometimes because it's so slow. But, I will say that, I do think that this team, Carolina, has struggled with road games. And last year we saw this as well. I think they play extremely comfortable at home, but I think when they get on the road, for some reason, I think they have a tendency to struggle. And I think that would be the next step for this team, figure out how to win games on the road. Because last year, when it got late into the season, everyone started talking about, they need a quad 1 win, which I hate the whole quad system. But, everyone points to that when it, helps their argument. But this team needs to figure out how to win on the road. I think that's the next step for Carolina.
Yeah, we can at least pretend we love the quad systems tonight when Kentucky loses whatever that was, a quad 3, quad 4 loss at home tonight, right, Tyler? That's fine. We love
Hey,
that
whenever
system
it supports our argument, we're all about it.
Sure. The other thing we should just mention, right? You lose Baycott in the first minute. Obviously, that's that's one of the biggest names on this roster. He's a superstar. We know this. They also had no Pete Nance tonight. Like, that's who you would like to turn to if Baycott is to go down in the first minute. Like, pretty luxurious option to have Pete Nance. They didn't tonight. Washington, certainly, I was very impressed with his production for a guy thrown into that role. And I think you're right, Tyler. I think this could bode really well long-term for this team. Big picture, though, we don't have to play the quad game, but we do have to maybe do some math here. 11-6 through 17 games. We saw this Carolina team flirt with the quote-unquote bubble all last season. And then this season, they come in as, national title favorites preseason. I think it's fair to call them that. I don't think they're anywhere near the bubble, in my personal opinion, today, but it's fair to say they have some work to do at this point. They haven't bought themselves as much room for error. Tyler, how much does that weigh on a team, especially this team, given they went through all of that last year, then found the success at the end of the season? Is that weighing them down at this point?
Well, I think it probably weighs them down more this year with expectations and having that preseason number one ranking. And I've said this before. I said this before the season started. It's different when you're ranked number one and teams are coming at you versus not being ranked number one and you're trying to go at other teams. That's a whole different mindset. And to me, getting that number one ranking and maintaining it is the toughest thing to do. So it's a whole different mindset. Do I think it's weighing on them? I don't know. I think you've got to be in the moment as a player and look what you can do currently to get better. But I hate to get to the point where the team starts to feel pressure on having to win, must win games. I hate that saying, but I just, I don't want to have that type of pressure come late in the season.
Tyler, let me ask you a question though. Do you feel like even early on in this season, because I've been on the field of 68 and back in November when they were struggling, and I'm like that just exactly what you said. Coming into the season, preseason ranked number one in the country, you've got all these expectations, and really you're only being ranked number one in the country because you made a run to the national championship game last year, right? And you lose some pieces, you lose Brady Manick, you're adding some pieces, but you're ranked number one based on what happened last year. And that's a lot for a team to deal with, and the expectations can weigh on you, and they affect your performance. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, 100%. I mean, everyone was in the offseason, was happy, in a good mood. When you lose and you're hungry and you didn't have the year you want, you put in the work. It's a whole different mindset, and you have something to work towards. Last year they went to the Final Four. I don't think anybody expected them to reach the Final Four pre-tournament. And then they got on a roll and got to the Final Four. But, you're right. I do think that, not being ranked one now, I think they're definitely going to get a little fire and, try to work their way to get some quality wins.
So we kind of talked through this with Kentucky a little bit, and I think these two programs are in very different spots, clearly. I mean, one went to the Final Four last year and sent Coach K packing for life, right? Like, we can't compare where the two programs are at when you do that.
Oh, contract. No, he's not. He's got his leadership council now. He's doing a bunch of different stuff. He's not packing. He's got other stuff going on.
It's a different type of lifetime contract now than what Cal's got. But so we talked motivation though, right? Like, Big O hit the podium and is kind of like, I need some guys who play hard. And I don't see that as clearly as an effort or motive, whatever you want to call it. I don't see the issues that we can clearly see with Kentucky here with North Carolina. But I do sort of step back from a broader level and question, like, okay, this roster is full of guys who could have moved on from college basketball at the end of last season. And we are now in an era where, I mean, thank God, I think it's a great thing for the game. The players can get paid. And we know some of these North Carolina players have struck big NIL deals. That's fantastic. And now they're back. Who knows if there were pro aspirations, if there were not NIL deals? I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts. But the point is it fair to sort of look at all of that and sort of question, hey, do these guys really want to be here? Where 10, 15 years ago, it's like if you're returning to school, there's a mission to do it, whether you want to go leave a legacy, whether you need to improve your game to get to the next level or something. If you're willingly choosing to not go get paid when you could, there's a reason for that. Do you sort of question that with this group at all, Tyler?
No, I don't. I question every college team, to be honest with you. Not just, I wouldn't hate to narrow this down to Carolina, but this is a whole college basketball, kind of what they're dealing with. Every locker room's dealing with this. But I will say that, turning pro and having those dreams, that's always been in college basketball. And so, guys are going to want to play towards that above any NIL deal, in my opinion, that they get. But I will say the one thing that everyone was excited about UNC is they're returning a lot of people. Now, when you have this transfer portal and, players can just leave after, 1 year and go wherever they want, and everyone's kind of shifting new places. Carolina said, no, we're going to return everybody except for Brady Manick, which I think people are starting to realize how important Brady Manick was to last year's team, which I've been, pretty big, preaching that for a while now because his attitude was contagious in the way he played. But I think that's why, because they're, experienced and they're returning a lot of guys. But, you could raise some questions about some NIL deals. I think everybody wants an NIL deal right now.
Tyler, I think you just hit a nail on the head in terms of Brady Manick, and his attitude was contagious through the whole team. Right? Like
100%.
Is Kentucky missing? And I know how good Oscar's been, and he's trying to be a leader and he's trying to say the right thing, but are they missing someone whose attitude is completely contagious through the whole team? Like that guy is so important. Right. And I'm not just going to talk about this team because I live 40 minutes from them, but I look at a team like FAU, and the fact that FAU is not ranked right now with what they've done. They've won 13 games in a row. They beat Florida. They're 4-0 in Conference USA. They're not ranked for whatever. They lost one game. They lost to Ole Miss, and that's without their second leading scorer who didn't play in the game. But you can see there's attitudes that are contagious throughout the entire locker room. Guys genuinely root for each other and celebrate each other's success. When it's not my night, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to cheer my teammate on, because that's what championship teams do.